now I can officially say I am diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 47 years old. My life is crazy. Okay, so there's been a little bit of an update on my life. Well, maybe it's not little, maybe it's kind of big, maybe it's kind of huge. There's been an update on my life, guys. So a couple of weeks ago, I had a long appointment with a psychiatrist. First time I've ever been to a psychiatrist. So I've seen psychologists, I've seen counselors, I've seen life coaches, but I've never seen a psychiatrist as such. But it was something that I really wanted to go and do. He asked me a lot of questions about my personality traits, my behavior, the way that I react to certain things. I had to give him a lot of examples, so he would ask me a question and then I'd have to explain to him how I would deal with that situation or how I would react or how I would feel. He asked me stuff about past history with anxiety, depression, eating issues like binge eating, skipping meals, lots of little different types of things that I wasn't actually kind of expecting him to ask me. But I'm a pretty self-aware person, and I was able to give him a pretty good explanation, I think, of what I'm like, because I am very aware of the behavioral traits that I have, the good and the bad, and the things that I do well and the things that I often fail at. So by the end of the conversation with him, this psychiatrist had formally diagnosed me with ADHD and PTSD. So ADHD, yes, that wasn't a surprise to me. I've thought for quite a while now that I could possibly have ADHD. I've even said it out loud. I think I've got ADHD, especially when I hear other people and they've got it and they kind of talk about it. I'm like, oh, I do that. That's me. So that wasn't a surprise to me. PTSD, yes, that was a surprise to hear that come out of his mouth. It doesn't actually surprise me knowing what I've gone through in life, but I'm the type of person who blocks a lot of things out. So I just kind of always have felt like I've blocked a lot of my stuff that's gone on in my life out of my life, and I didn't really realize until I spoke to him how by blocking stuff out of your mind, how it can still play a factor in how that you behave and how things are brought on, and how even like ADHD has it's kind of tied almost to PTSD, a lot of things like that as well. So that was interesting, but the PTSD, that's a whole nother thing, and he's recommended some therapy for me called EMDR, which is like an eye therapy. So that's something that he wants to go down the path with me, but he doesn't want to do that just yet. He wants to kind of deal with the ADHD side of it first, and then we'll start going down that other kind of therapy route to see if I can sort my life out with some of that stuff, which I'm not going to go into any of that with you guys. Obviously, that's for me to battle and nobody else. But the ADHD is probably not going to surprise a lot of you. There's a lot of people who leave comments in my videos asking me, do you have ADHD, or have you been tested for ADHD? And I'm sure those of you who haven't actually thought it or heard anyone say it, or even heard me kind of say that I've probably got it, there's probably a lot of you that are sitting there now having a little bit of a light bulb moment going, aha, that's why Mel is so squirrel brained. And probably the way that I am, and the way that I am in my videos sometimes, and that, I am an oversharer, and the way that I jump from things and I don't finish tasks because I'm getting sidetracked by the next new exciting thing that takes my interest. And why also sometimes I can be so hyper focused at times. I can have days where I'll smash out 300 listings and everyone will be like, oh my God, how do you do it? Because I'm so hyper focused and that's all I've got to think about for the day. I can do that, but then I won't list for 3 weeks afterwards. So I've got my strengths. I think that is a bit of a strength that I can hyper focus, but it's also been very frustrating for me in my life to be why am I so on fire some days and I'm so good some days, but I can't maintain that level of consistency. It's been very, very frustrating for me. It's caused a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of frustration, and things are just difficult for me sometimes. And at certain parts in my life, I find that I get more overwhelmed and things become more and more difficult. And I kind of feel like that's the position that I've been in for maybe the last year or something. And I think it's just because so much has been going on in my mind. I've gone through, big life changes as well. So obviously that's probably going to make me even more scattered. And it's, yeah. Yeah. So when I was a kid, when I was a little girl at school, I would never have been picked for having ADHD because, I don't know, back in, I was born in 1976. So back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, it was mainly the people that were picked up for ADHD were the naughty boys. And that sounds bad, but it's true. It was those boys that would jump around and be naughty and disruptive in class and get in trouble all the times. They were the kind of ones that were picked up with having issues. And I don't even know how much testing was done back when I was at school. I truly don't. I don't know. But even going back to when my daughter was at school and my daughter was young, around those same ages, thinking back, some of my girlfriends have had kids that have been diagnosed with ADHD, always boys. I don't see as many girls, and I think the thing is it's just harder to pick up in girls, and it comes across differently in girls. And I think for me as a child, I was definitely not a hypo kid. I was not hyperactive in any way. I was very quite quiet and shy and reserved. And I think what I was I was a daydreamer. I was always daydreaming, or I was zoning off. I was terrible at school. I was just not good at it. I couldn't process it. I couldn't understand the way that they were teaching it for me. And because I had no interest in that, I didn't understand it, I would just zone off and daydream and think about something else. So I never really performed well in school. I would probably say I got by and probably was deemed as fairly average, but I never really did well. And even as an adult going into my life, I've been self-employed for since my daughter, she was born, she's 23. So I've been self-employed that whole time, and I've chopped and changed my jobs. Generally, I change about every 5 years. This is the longest I've stuck with anything. But everything that I've done in my life, I've kind of self-taught myself. So when I was a family photographer before I did reselling, there is no way that I could have gone to photography school and been taught how to do photography in a technical manner. I would not have understood it. I was a very good photographer, but I taught myself to learn in the manner that I wanted to photograph, and I was very good at it. But I could never have gone to school and learnt that. It would have just gone over my head and I would not have understood it. So I guess there's been mixed feelings, but a real sense of relief and a weight lifted off me, because now it's not an excuse, but there's a reason why I behave in certain ways. There's a reason why I struggle with things that other people don't struggle with. And that makes me almost feel validated, because I can't tell you for a long time, and I go through stages where I feel dumb and I feel I just feel dumb sometimes, and sometimes I feel lazy, and I'm not a lazy person. And there'll be you guys on these videos, I know that you'll say that lazy isn't a word that will come across when you think of me, because you see a lot of my videos where I'm working really hard and I'm really motivated, and sometimes they're in my hyper-focus mode where I am totally hyper-focused on something and getting it done, and I will work really, really hard and fast and to do that. But there are times when I'll work really, really hard and fast on things, and I will smash that out, whether or not for a day, for a couple of days, for a week, sometimes even for a couple of weeks. I'll be fixated on something. And then that's it. The dopamine rush kind of goes, and I go into a slump. And I'm sure it's what this burnout is, why I've kind of described myself as back from burnout, because that feels like the story of my life. My life feels like a roller coaster with burnout, going in and out, in and out. But I think it's because I have so many highs and lows, and so many of those days where I'm up hyper-focused, and then I come back down from those hyper-focused, and I'm like, now I can't do anything. And the problem with me is I don't really stop to let my body rest. So what I do is I keep going after I'm coming down from like a hyper-focused moment, a day, a week, whatever, however long that period is that I'm up and I'm on a mission. The come down is real for me, and I come down, but what happens is rather than me kind of sitting and going to the couch and resting and stuff like that, I don't do that. But what I do is I keep trying to work, and I'm totally foggy brained and I can't get anything done. It gets to the end of the day and I think, what the heck did I even do today? I did nothing. And it's like I've been trying all day to do stuff, but I'm living in this cloud of fog and nothing can get done. And it can be the simplest of tasks, making a phone call, doing my email, replying to something, paying a bill. It can be the most simplest of tasks that I have to do, but I get these task paralysis where I cannot do it. I physically cannot do it. And for me, it's so frustrating because I've never really understood why I'm on fire some days and then other days I can't. And it's frustrating for people around me. Like, it's sometimes like, even for Tom, it's frustrating. Like when he says, are you going to do this? And I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And he'll be like, when are you going to do it? I'm like, I don't know. And I read something on Instagram the other day, and it was like asking, the quote was something like, asking me to do something and asking me to give you the time that will take is like asking me how many gumballs are in the jar, but not being able to see the jar. And that's exactly how it is for me. That's exactly how it feels. So I guess by having like an official diagnosis as well, it's just helped me understand now there's a reason why I've always had so much trouble with things like time management, productivity, organization, working memory, relationships. Like, the more I'm now like deep diving into this, because obviously like I want to learn as much as I can about this now. So since I found out, I'm following pages on Instagram, I'm listening to more podcasts. The psychiatrist has given me a lot of information, like an online course. He's given me a lot of links and different things to do and work around and understand this and learn more about this. But since I'm now consuming that information in a different manner, then it's different from like, oh, I might have ADHD to like, oh shit, I've actually got ADHD. And now I need to understand it. But having that diagnosis, I think it's lifted a huge weight off my shoulders, and I didn't actually expect to have that. And it's made me realize that, you know what, there's actually a reason why I can't perform in the way that I always want to perform in, or why I don't do things the same as everybody else, or why can this person like list all their items every single day consistently on eBay, and for me, why is it that I want to go and list everything as much as I can possibly in one day and then not do any for weeks? Like, I work in a different way, and now it's like, oh, it's almost like a validation. Like, that's okay, Mel. You can be different to everyone else. You don't have to be the same as everyone else. You don't have to work in the same manner, and not everybody here who follows you has to actually understand you and the method to your madness. But now it gives me that opportunity to be like, okay, there's a reason for all of this. And now, instead of trying to be somebody, not be somebody that you're not, but trying to do things that don't work for you, like systems or schedules, and things that like just do not work for me. I've tried them over and over and over, and all they do is cause me frustration. So now it's about learning, okay, that doesn't work for you, but what is going to work for you? And actually being able to step back and pull back a little bit and go, right, I have to make some changes, and those changes have to be suited to me. Nobody else, suited to me. And whether or not anybody else thinks they're the right way or wrong way, I have to change things to make them more suited to me. I've spent a lot of my life feeling frustrated with why I do things, like, why do I have no filter? Like, I've had viewers come up. I had one guy when I went to Queensland in April, and he was like, Mel, I love you, but sometimes you don't have to share everything. And I'm like, but I do. I like to share. I'm that type of person. I've got no filter. I interrupt a lot. And guys, I don't mean, if I'm talking to you, apologize. I don't mean to interrupt conversations. I kind of interrupt because I am trying to be like, oh, I understand that. And then I might tell my story so that you understand that I relate to you. But it comes across to you who's maybe like normal and being just like, well, she's rude. She's just interrupted me and started talking about herself. No, I'm trying to tell you my story so that you understand that I relate to you because that happened to me. Not actually trying to be rude, but now that I've found all this out, I'm finding out there's reasons for these behavioral traits. You know, why I get so stressed easily, why I interrupt people easily, why I'm so foggy-brained, why is the fog so thick some days? Oh my goodness. And yeah, I don't really feel angry. I thought I might feel angry, like as in like like this has been missed and then feel angry. I don't really feel angry. I don't like to think of myself as like an angry person, but I guess there is a little bit of, again, maybe more frustration in the fact of like, how much easier would my life have been if I'd found this out earlier and been able to like work systems in to manage it for myself, or maybe medication. So speaking of medication, my psychiatrist has prescribed me with something called Vyvanse, I think it's called. So to be honest, I've gone and got the script, but I'm anxious to take it. And I'm like that with any new medication I change. I get really nervous about what might happen. Are there going to be side effects? Would I be allergic to it? I've got one medication that I had once and had an allergic reaction to it. So anything that I take now, like I feel nervous about it and quite anxious. Look, guys, I don't even like taking a Panadol, like paracetamol. I avoid taking medication at all costs. And also I'm really forgetful with it. I'm forgetful with taking like daily medicines that I need to take at certain times or daily, or even like vitamins. I'll go get these great intentions. I'll go buy all these vitamins and then never take a single one. So I did notice on the back of the Vyvanse, the medication, there's a spot where you cross it off. So you know that you've taken it every single day of the month. And I was like, makes sense. So I do have that medication. I am nervous to try it, but I am going to try it. But I'm going to start it on a day where I spend a couple days with Tom, just so I've got somebody with me the entire time, just so if I feel nervous or start to go into having a panic attack or something like this, I've got somebody there who can keep me grounded and just bring me down to earth in case I need it. But yep, now I can officially say I am diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 47 years old. My life is crazy. At least I know I'm crazy for a reason. Everything makes sense now, my goodness. I don't know when it was, but once somebody said to me the reason why they liked my YouTube channel was because they never knew what they were going to get when they opened up a video. They never knew they could never predict what my next video was going to be. And guys, I have always said I never want to be one of those YouTube channels that shares the same thing every single day, because I would be bored. I would be so bored making that type of content. I struggle to even watch other sellers that do the same thing every single video, the same thing. It's too repetitive for me. Like, I like to learn about different things and see different things, and that sparks interest in me. So I will never be one of those channels that shares the same thing every day. And sometimes, like, you guys might even ask me to share something, but if I've got no interest in that at the time, it's really, really hard for me to make a video on something that I'm just not interested in at the time. So my videos are quite probably selfishly interest driven by things that I'm interested in at the time. And that is why they will chop and change over times, where I might be like doing one thing and then I'm doing another thing. And also, it probably explains why sometimes I'm like really good with making heaps of videos and then I crash and I'm not feeling interested in in anything, and it's one of my calm down moments until I find the dopamine to be hyper focused again. But like in those stages, that's where I find it really hard to be creative and make videos for you guys. And that's why sometimes I'll go like, I'm only putting out like a video every couple of weeks, because that's when it's hard for me. And I will go through waves even with eBay, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes I find eBay as boring as batshit. Like, it's boring for me sometimes. It's like entering a spreadsheet. And the reason why I love the videos is I get to make whatever I want. And that's why I like, and some days I like to go thrifting and make a video thrifting, and some days I like to make a video sitting in the car or sitting on my floor or sitting in the warehouse. I like to chop and change it, and I think that's always going to stay the same with this video. I am going to be up and down with these videos. So if you subscribe to me, you're signing up for the ride. Guys, I have waffled. I have just had my verbal diarrhea come out. You're probably sitting there going, gee, she's talking fast today. Yes, I feel like I needed to get this out, and I wasn't sure when I was going to do it, but I feel like I needed to get it out, and now everybody knows, and we all know why I'm batshit crazy, and there's a reason for it, and I'm just going to embrace it, and I'm going to treat it like some people say ADHD is their superpower. And I wish I was one of those people with the superpower that was hyper-focused all the bloody time, but I'm not. But I am going to treat this now as my superpower, and I am going to, really lift some expectations off myself. It's going to help do that, and it's going to help me to navigate my life in a better way. So, yeah, fingers crossed on the medications that they do help me. I don't want them to lose my personality. I said that to the doctor. I said once I went on to anxiety medication, Zoloft, and I was on that for a couple of years, and I will say it helped me tremendously with my anxiety and my depression at the time. I needed that medication. But what I didn't like with it was that it made me neutral. I had no feelings. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I just felt nothing. I just was neutral. And I hated that. I couldn't wait to get off that medication for that reason. So I said to this psychiatrist, I don't want to have no personality. Like, I don't want no personality. So if these drugs are going to give me no personality, I'll have to learn to manage it. And he said, look, give them a go. Come back, we'll review it in a couple of months. We'll see where we're at, see if the dose is right, see how you feel, see if it's the right one. We might need to chop and change. And I think I've just got to listen to the doctor and try, because at the moment I definitely feel like I'm struggling harder than I have at other times of my life. So if I need some help at the moment, the help is there, and I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to roll with it. So anyway, just wanted to share that little update, or that big update in my life, which I kind of already knew, but I didn't know. And now that I do know, like, wow, it's totally different. And it's a very different feeling from feeling like you've got something to actually being told, yeah, I've got something. Very, very different. Anyway, let me show you what I just bought in the thrift shop. It is home preserving. I've paid $2 for it. I'm going to try and sell this book for around the $25 to $30 mark. I think I'll price it around $30, taken off for $25 if one comes through. Okay, now this is a book I took a little bit of a gamble on. I've kind of got enough. I do deem myself a bit of a book expert now, so I've got enough knowledge in me to know when there's something that maybe I should take a gamble on. This is one of those items. It's called Sparks of the Cosmos, Rituals for Seasonal Use. Now, I'm not kind of sure. I think it's based around that spirituality. I'm not really sure if it's religious. It does seem to have some prayers and guided meditations and stuff throughout it. There is a sticker on the back of it that says $39.99 as the original price. Couldn't see any solds on this book. It's one of those books that's a little bit different. And I don't know, I'm just going to take a bit of a gamble. I'll either be coming back in a little while and telling you that it was a waste of my money, or I'll be telling you like, yes, followed the gut instinct and it paid off. Okay, this one I just picked up was called the Broadsheet Italian Cookbook. I paid $4 for this book, I think it is. Let me see. $4, and I comped this in store. It was coming in around the $35 to $40 mark, so that's a pretty good one. 365 Bible stories and prayers. Now, do find the children's Bible books. They sell well for me, and they sell quite easily, and just Bibles in general. They're just great sellers. Anyway, this one was nice. It didn't have any inscribing or inscriptions or any names or anything in the front of this Bible, so I'm happy about this. Paid $2, and again, I'm going to try and sell this book for around, probably list for $30, but would take an offer for $25. Okay, this one, the Weber's Barbecue Bible. It's another book that sells very easily. Better in the summer. We are winter, but Aussies do like their barbecues. Anyway, I am going to list this book for $30, possibly take an offer around that $25 mark. Coming into winter, barbecues are not as common as summer, and if this was in summer, I would easily get $30 probably for this book. And this was an interesting set I've kind of taken another gamble on. There is another 2 down here. So there's 6 books in this series. I paid $1 each from the Salvo stores. The Complete Works of Swami Vivekananda. Don't ask me how to say it. I tried to look him up. I think he's kind of like a yoga karma, maybe Kama Sutra. Or, I don't know. He's some kind of yogi. And I don't know about him, but some of his books, where the Complete Works, if you've got the full set, and I noticed that the hardcovers, they were selling for really like high money. Some of them were listed for a couple $100. Probably need to do a bit of research. These ones aren't in the best of conditions, and I am missing number 2, I think it was. So I've got 1 to 7, and number 2 is missing. So, not ideal, but didn't turn me off enough to buy it. I am going to try and list the 6 books for around that $50 mark, and fingers crossed, we'll see how we go. So that's it, guys. See you soon. Bye.